The great ones, they're different. They really are. Not better, just different. Sure, there's a physical power, a mental strength, a complex but resolute constitution too. There's a whole lot more than just the measurables. That's something else, that intangible. It separates us from them. Welcome to the Legends series on Andy Raymond Unfiltered. When you think you know someone, but in reality you don't. This bloke, he played it as hard as anyone. He ignited and enraged opposition players and supporters. But after that whistle blew, the transformation began. Get ready to be surprised. Really surprised. Who is Michael Crocker?
Who am I? I am, or was, a skinny little white kid that grew up in the northern suburbs of Brisbane. I loved being outdoors playing with the footy, and now I am a fiancé to a beautiful partner, a father to two ripping young men, and a dog lover, father to a furry child, dog lover, Harry Potter lover, and just a lover of life, Raymond. That's me.
Harry Potter lover?
I love Harry Potter.
Really?
Books too, yeah, not the
movies?
Not so much the movies, they ruined it for me. But
You've won me straight over by saying you're a lover of the fur babies, because more often than not, dogs are better than humans.
yeah, puppies.
Yeah.
We've got a couple in the background. If you hear them cheering, that's our love for dogs. They're licking each other's ears now, so at least that's not us, Raymond.
Yeah,
Just
no,
yet.
The two crazy Labradors observing and supervising this interview. Like many of the great Queenslanders, Greg Inglis and Billy Moore, you're actually born in New South Wales, but you moved to Queensland as a young fella, right?
Yeah, not by choice. So Dad was born, he's Ipswich boy, and we moved back home when I was 4 or 5 and grew up as a Queenslander. That's all I knew. My old man took me to Lang Park when I was 10 at the outer, as any good responsible parent does. So that's all I knew. And I remember a guy dressed as Benny Elias running through at that stage, and I had a fresh pie, which was a treat at the time, and was encouraged quite vigorously to launch that meat pie at Benny Elias. And I was playing a bit of cricket at the time, so I had a decent arm, but unfortunately just clipped his shoulder and didn't hit him flush in the face.
What are your first memories of footy? Is it playing or is it watching?
First game I ever remember watching was a 1986 grand final. So Mum was a Parra fan. She's a Sydney girl.
Good girl.
And still waiting for that premiership too.
Yep.
And they were playing the Dogs. So I went for the Dogs just to go against Mum, as you do. And it was like, was it 4-0, one of those ones?
4-2.
4-2, yeah. So that was my first memory. I don't remember too much in between. I remember watching as a kid a few of the games. There wasn't much on TV.
No,
so there was a game on Saturday maybe, or something like that. So because I was so busy and always outdoors, I didn't watch a whole heap. So I never really had a team. Yeah. And obviously the Broncos weren't in until I was, what was that, 88? So
88,
yeah. So I was 8. So those first few years where you're actually playing footy and identifying with it, I didn't really have a team. Yeah. We used to stick around and watch the North Devils. That was my junior clubs. We'd stick around and watch them play on the weekends. So play junior footy, sit on the hill, and the parents would have a feed and a beer, and we'd run around playing footy on the hill and watching the under 18s, reserve grade, and first grade. So that was our family outings at the time, and I miss those days. Like I miss watching, watch Q Cup now and see the crowd, and there's no one there. Like it's not a family feel, and that's sad because they were arguably the best times of my childhood. Those footy days.
Even NRL now, there is no one in the stadium 20 minutes before kickoff.
So Parra do it really well. You like this? Parra do it really well at the start of the year. When it's summer, daylight savings, so they'll have that. They have those games and like a few little things outside at the stadium. I'm not sure now with the new stadium, but a couple of years ago, going to a few of the games there, and they actually had that vibe. AFL do it really well in Sydney. Like Driver Ave is just all activities for kids and families and all ages really. So it's something that It's really strange that I remember the Roosters tried to do a tailgate type thing one day.
Yeah.
For the finals, I was like, Australians love barbecues, they love beer, and they love footy.
It should have
How
worked.
is this not working?
Yeah.
Especially when it's done for us and we don't have to worry about drink driving. So, yeah, it's a strange one. And I think when a club can ignite that passion and get families back, I even remember playing at the Roosters and you'd have the diehard fans that watch the under-20s reserve grade and first grade, and they'd actually follow your career. So we don't have that blessing anymore. Like there's one game on, you come in for one game, maybe two at best. But yeah, there's no avenue really for fans, true fans, to watch kids progress from that 19s, 20s stage all the way through.
Me growing up, I was the tragic, and there was nothing greater than turning up game day at 11:50 when the gates opened. Under 23s would kick off at 12 o'clock, reserve grade would kick off at 1:30, first grade would kick off at 3 o'clock, and you knew every player in the club. You knew who the fullback was for the under 23s, where he'd come from, what he'd done, and then it was up to you to project where he was going. I mean, it was a really special time. Were you a good kid or a naughty kid? I think I know the answer, but...
What do you reckon I was?
I'm suggesting probably leaning towards the naughty side.
No, I was the shyest,
Really?
softest. I was a sook as a kid. I was the skinniest little white boy, and I was so good at school. I was actually my mum's heritage is German, so very strict sort of Catholic upbringing, and I was afraid to do anything wrong. Dad,
Wow.
like you get the belt out, or you get copper hiding. So I was very obedient. So I was speaking about this with my partner and talk about, like, I never missed a day of school. I would never have even thought about wagging a day of school like that. I was just like, no, actually, I really enjoyed school. So I was a good student. I was a good kid. I dare say I was busy.
Were you busy. A nerd?
No, not a nerd, but I did my work and I rushed through it because I was really competitive, right? So I was the type of kid who would be in class. I would write out my answers as fast as I could, look around to see if I'd won. Wow. That's how competitive I was. And then I realised then once I got older, I had to actually write well as well as fast. And same with anything in life now, you know, it's you want to get stuff done fast, but you got to do a good job as well. So yeah, I learned those things growing up. But mate, I was outside all the time, and I think Mum and Dad worked really hard as well. So, you know, they were gone at 7 o'clock. I had an older sister, so from pretty much grade 1 on, we were on our own to get to school, get home from school, and then get your homework done, get your afternoon tea, and then play sport. And I was lucky, mate. We had 12 kids on our street. I was maybe the second or third youngest, so I had all these older kids around me as well. And whether we're playing footy, cricket, basketball, tennis, whatever it was, you know, had these older guys that were always better.
Yeah.
And so I was always striving to be as good. It's, like I said, really competitive. And I love that challenge of just trying to go well.
Throughout the juniors, am I right in saying most of the journey you're a half or 5'8"?
Until, yes, I was a half 5'8", and then under 12s, Ross Hendricks, who'd played for Queensland, came and coached us. His son Trent was a half. His nephew Aaron was a 5'8", so they played in the halves, and I went to fullback. Like I said, I was a skinny little white kid. And one thing I was never great at anything, but the things I was best at school or as a kid was long jump and high jump. So
you're a fullback,
yeah, and cross country. So I was sort of long to middle distance, not that great at sprinting, but I was reasonably fit because I ran all day. I was on my feet all day or riding bikes. So. Fullback, I was reasonably skillful as well, just because I loved having a footy in my hand. So, I went there, and as I got to sort of 14s and 15s, I was, the pace started dropping off a little bit compared to our other outside backs and stuff. So I was not most suited to fullback. I ended up going over to Redcliffe, and the coach there, Brian Winnie, was actually we'll talk about my coaches later, but Brian Winnie was one of the best coaches for me as a kid, who he really found out who I was as a person, what I loved the most, and I love tackling. So at fullback, you can't really tackle that much, but I always loved tackling, love that collision, love the contact, and he goes, mate, we'll throw you in the centres, and we'll give you a crack there. And I was starting to shoot up a little bit taller. I was getting skinnier and taller, but just still loved tackling. So he threw me in there. I actually went reasonably well at centre. And it wasn't until I left school at 70 kilos as a reasonably above average height. So that's how skinny I was. And came back. I got glandular fever the week of the grand final in under 12s, grade 12. So that was under 17s. Lost 10, 15 kilos. And something must have happened to my metabolism. Plus had a growth spurt, and I came back the next pre-season at 92 or 3. So everyone was like, what's happened to you? It looked like I'd swallowed a cow, and I'd shot up about 6 inches or something like that. So, it was one of those periods I just went bang like that. So, threw me in the back row and stayed there ever since, pretty much.
Any elite athlete will tell you it takes more than just being physically fit to be at your best. And our friends at Galaxy Finance can have you at the top of your financial game. From home loans to investments and self-managed super funds, they provide complete solutions. Call Galaxy Finance on 1300 91 7740 and mention you heard it on Andy Raymond Unfiltered to get an obligation-free chat to see how Galaxy Finance can assist you. You're fortunate to have a former Origin player as a coach, but it's a wonderful grounding as well, even as a 12-year-old. As you said, you then went to Redcliffe. You had some great coaches around you. 7 kids from that side at Redcliffe would go on to play NRL. Dane Carlaw, Brad Watts, Sam Obst, Brent Tate, Ben Jones, Craig Frawley and yourself. Who was the standout as a young fella?
So as a kid that wasn't even on that... Did you say Tatey then?
Yeah.
Oh, so Tatey was actually He was a year or two below us and playing up, and he was a standout.
Was he?
He was the best of us all. Dane and... so Ben Jones and Craig Frawley were outstanding as well.
Yep.
Frawls was hilarious because he would just, especially in school rugby, there was 4 of us at the same school playing school rugby as well. So he would run through the line and then just look around for the fullback. We had a fast fullback because he didn't want to run. So he and Jonesy were playing. Ben Jones were playing Super League 17s for the Broncos. But then Dane was obviously a big freakish athlete. But Tatey was that kid that single-handedly won our 18s grand final and things like that. He was a super talent.
In the Broncos catchment area, how and why the Sydney Roosters for your first crack at NRL footy?
Mate, let's go back to so do you know how our coaches were for that 17s team?
No.
So Mark Murray and Anthony Griffin.
Is that right?
Yeah. So talk about my coaches, right? So I had Ross Hendricks, then we had that guy Brian Winnie, I said who was a really good influence on me. And then we had Muppet and Hook. And then went into my first year at Colts. The first grade coach was Neil Wharton, who was a BRL rep player. I think he might have played somewhere else as well, but he was a well-known footy player. And then Alex Corvo took over the year after as head coach, and he's obviously one of the most renowned strength and conditioning trainers. Yeah. I actually got really big under his because we were doing all these programs. It was all upper body, which he obviously loved. If you know who Alex Corvo is and you've seen him, big upper body, very skinny legs. So there's a big focus on that.
Yeah, he's the gym guy with the big traps and the big arms.
Yeah,
but
so
nothing.
like I mentioned, my coaching history was phenomenal. But those players around me as well. Like Ross got the best kids from the under 12 state carnivals and said, "Come down to Brisbane. I'll coach them, give them a league education." They all went to Wavell, so they didn't get the best schooling education at the time. Wavell's much better now, I must say. But yeah, because I had those guys around me, I had to compete every day just to keep a starting spot. So I think that was a blessing for me, having so much talent around me, whether it was coaches or players, that they really brought me up to that next level.
Were you always going to be a star from 12 years of age?
No, not at all. I played Med East under 12s. I was a possible fullback in the Possibles Probables trial, and that was my last rep team until under 19s. And I played Queensland, but that's only because Dane Carlaw, Brad Myers, Carl Webb, Ben Jones, Craig Frawley were all playing first grade. So that's, other than that, I wouldn't have played any rep footy at all.
So how'd you end up at the Roosters? You're in the Broncos catchment area. You're in their backyard.
So Redcliffe, Arthur Beetson was obviously a Redcliffe boy, played there. He was he was obviously the recruitment guy at the Roosters. Brian Canterbury was a Brisbane boy. He was their
of course
general manager of football, I think, at the time. and they formed a partnership and came up, and I would have been, talk about that team we had, this was in Colts, I would have been 5th on their list, I reckon, in that Colts team. Probably, I was probably even further down the list, but the game that they came up, I had an absolute belter. I've scored 4 tries, I've set up one, I've put up a bomb, I whacked the fullback. It was just one of those games that was obviously caught their eye. So whether I was on, I might not have even been on their list, but then they chose, I think they chose 7 of us to go down. And again, I would have been at the bottom of that list. There was guys, obviously Trent Clayton, Sammy Obst. There was a front rower, Nathan Herbin. I remember him. He was one of the best front rowers I ever played with. Big country boy, big tough country boy. And Mickey Roberts, who ended up winning, I think he played with the Bronx and the Crushers a little bit, but I think he won 4 Player of the Year awards for Q Cup. So,
wow.
I was way down that list.
Roosters club number 1,000. Coincidental, but it's a really cool mark to have. It was 2001. Graham Murray was the coach. What do you remember of Muzz and your first impressions of professional footy, I guess?
Yeah, look, it's funny. Like even when I went down and got that contract right, I still didn't think much of it. I never thought of myself as ever playing professional football. I just loved footy. And then you're given an opportunity, you go down there. I was we were training in the afternoons for flag, so all the teams had come together. I think we trained a little bit with the first grade squad and the reserve graders in pre-season, but I was still just basically a part-time footballer and just enjoying it. And then, that 2000, I remember I actually got called into a game as 18th man, and it was a bit surreal. We stayed out at Penrith, and I came downstairs. The first time I've ever eaten at a buffet, I think. So I've eaten a whole heap of food, went out and didn't play. So played reserve grade at 12 o'clock or something, 1 o'clock, and spewed everywhere. Played all right, but that was my first sort of insight into what actually goes on, and I just obviously wasn't ready for it. So it wasn't until I remember Arthur Gatinas was our reserve grade coach in 2000. So 2000 was playing flag, which was under 20s at the time. I remember I played the first few games and then played the game after that, played a full game for flag and then sat on the bench for reserve grade. Did that for a few weeks and then just stayed in the reserve grade side and made that reserve grade side. So I remember the first game I played, we had front row was Quinton Pongia, Nat Wood, Ian Rubin, then we had Dallas Hood, Brendan Hurst and Julian Bailey. So
there's a forward pack for reserve grade.
Exactly,
wow.
right? So, and then we had, in the backs, we had Sammy Obst, Shannon Hegarty, Ryan Cross, and maybe Chris Flannery. So a heap of young kids as well. So there's a really good blend of good, tough senior players. And I remember that comp, it was hard. I remember tackling people and, elbows and knees and forearms to the face. And I grew up in Redcliffe and North, and I saw that's how they played footy anyway. So it was nothing new to me, but it was just tough. I just remember it was a really good initiation into football, and I loved that. It was. I just loved that toughness of the sport. And I remember after one game, this is my second year, 2001. So we played first 5 or 6 games, I think it was. And I remember I came off after one game, and Artie Katina said, "I think you're ready." I said, "What for?" And he goes, "No, for the next level." I was like, "Oh, okay, sweet." Still didn't think much of that either. And then through the week, Graham called me and said, "Mate, I want you to play. We'll put you on the bench this week." It might have been an injury to Dave Solomona or something like that. And it got us started. It was against the Bulldogs. We won the game. I don't remember too much of it. I remember, I think Mason got a good shot of me, and it was a classic old school commentary was just like, "Welcome to first grade" sort of thing. It was one of those. I just basically from there it was just then something I did. It was never saw it as a job until I was older. Obviously, then there's more responsibilities that come with it. But as a kid, it was just fun. It was just a great experience. I'm
going to jump ahead a long way here, but you just preempted a question that I would ask later. You got it, in my opinion anyway. You got what being a professional footballer was about. You had some fuck-ups off the field, but you still got it. You knew your responsibility was to act like a professional, to play like a professional, and to do the professional things for sponsors, for the media, for the fans. And you didn't get the ego, you didn't change as a person, you got the responsibility. I think that's admirable because it doesn't happen.
I disagree that I got it. I think that's just my upbringing, my parents. That's just been a good person.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like you always talk, be respectful, be kind to people, be nice, have good manners. My manners are exceptional because of my parents. And you shake people's hands, you say good day, you try and remember their names, that sort of thing. That goes a long way. And then you put that into that sense you're talking about, sponsors, corporates, media, all those people around. If you do that, it's nothing out of the ordinary for me, but it's just being a good person. So
it is.
It's just me being able to live a normal life. And I think when you say you get it, I think nowadays that get it means people should get that football is fun. Yes, there's lots of obligations, there's lots to do, but when you are out on that field training, when you are out on that field playing, nothing matters. Nothing else matters, no matter what you've got going on in your life. And like you said, I've made some bad decisions, I've had some ups, I've had some downs. But when you're training and you're playing, you don't need to worry about any of that. So if you've had a bad day or a bad time at home or something's happened, you come to training, you've got all your mates around, you've got 30 really good mates. Most of them, you've got a handful of them, they're your best mates you hang with every day, all the time, away from footy as well. You're surrounded by basically a family.
You're listening to Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Legends series. We have corporate and private sponsorship packages available. You set the terms. For further information on how you can become part of the team, go to the website andyraymondunfiltered.com.au and hit the sponsorship tab. Not everyone does get it, and you've seen that though.
Mate, when I was at the Rabbitohs, I remember some kids walking around going, oh, gee, we've got a big day today, and they're kicking stones. These are 21-year-olds on a couple of hundred, and you're just like, hey, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
My first ever session there was the new Redfern. You're downstairs, so you walk in, or it might have been sunny when we walked in, did weights, and I got out in the middle of the day for a field session. It was bucketing rain, puddles everywhere, and all these kids were up under the grandstand with their hoods on. I was like, what are you boys doing? They're like, it's raining. I'm like, and? We're just about to train for 2 hours in it. I said, come out here. See that puddle in the corner? You kick it in, I'll show you how to score a try. I'm, 29 at the time. I've sprinted down, slid down 10, 15 metres, grabbed the ball, put it down, threw it up, and all of a sudden everyone starts coming out, kicking balls, sliding in the puddles. It's magic. It's
a kid's dream come true.
Exactly. It's kicking the footy with your mates. And yes, it's hard work, but hard work is fun, especially when you do it with your mates. You finish a hard session, you get off. That feeling you get of fulfillment and satisfaction of going, how good was that? That's as good as anything in life. I haven't had a baby, so for everyone saying, what about when you had kids? I haven't had my own baby experience yet. So kids, if you're listening, let's get cracking with that.
In 2002, Ricky Stewart was appointed as coach. Never coached first grade before. It was a risk, but with Ricky came intensity and intent. I maintain still the 2002 Roosters side was a side that changed the style of play defensively and changed the game. Agree or disagree?
I would agree. I think Sticky we were blessed to have him. He was perfect for us at the time. And you look at the group we had, it was a really good group. You know, just talking great senior players. Freddie,
tough blokes
Rico,
too.
Fitzy, they were all leading us. We had Moz, a few of those other guys were around as well. And then Mullows came back, and then a few of the outside backs were a bit younger, but we had Luke Phillips was in there. Wingy had been around for a while. He was still young, but we had a really well-balanced squad. But we were, like you said, we were tough and fit, and we liked working hard. So what Ricky did, and I still maintain that we at the Roosters over that 3 or 4 year period, I think we trained harder than any other program that I've done. Obviously went to Melbourne, and they're well renowned for their pre-seasons. But what we did at the Roosters was, before GPS, before any of the sports science came out, just Ronnie Palmer and Sticky at their best.
Flogging you.
Absolutely flogging us, and then backing that up with another flogging. So we had times where we'd do a beep test. And at that time, I think we had all of our forward pack bar, maybe one or two, could get 14 on the beep test, and they'd stop us at 14. And that's how fit we were.
That's
but we would do
ridiculous.
that, and then he would go, that wasn't good enough. We're doing another one.
Go again.
And then for every, say you got 14 on that first one. So if we got 13, 10 on the next one, that was 2 levels you missed. So that was 2 100-metre sprints for the whole team. So we counted them up, and there was like 150 hundreds that we had to do. Craig Wing and Minicello beat their scores, and they got double because Sticky goes, you obviously didn't go hard enough. And we end up, I think Ronnie talked him out of it, and we end up doing 150s instead, or 50-50s like sprints.
Wow.
So, and then after that, we did a set of Malcolms with tackle pads. But he would grab us and go, no other club is doing this. Or he'd take us, we had times, I don't know if you've been to Pacific Bay up at Coffs Harbour, the resort there. So you've got the main hotel and the main reception and restaurant. Then you walk across a road, and it's got a hill about 250 metres that goes pretty much straight up, and then all the accommodations over there. So they took us out at 11 o'clock in the morning, split the backs and forwards up. So the forwards, we went and had a beer with Dave Gillespie, Jim Dimmick, John Cartwright, and Dean Pay. They were our coaches.
That is a wonderful.
And everyone else went with the backs went with Sticky, Ronnie, and I don't know if Ivan was there at the time. No, I think
Might have been Ivan or Shane Flanagan, maybe.
I think Flanagan was a little bit later. Yeah, whoever it was, but obviously we had Dave Gillespie and that just going, mate, these backs are going to lose you the competition. They're soft. You need to toughen them up. So we got to the point where we were so fired up by the time we met them at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever it was. We tried to fight them. We were throwing glasses at them, trying to call them out, trying to get them into a stink to toughen them up because we were convinced that they were going to be our weakness coming into the season. Anyway, so we hug that out and then have a few beers. We get back to the hotel at 11 or 12 p.m. They say, all right, no one leaves the hotel. You can have a beer down here, go to sleep, whatever you need to do, but no one leaves the resort. Half hour later, they're rounding everyone up, starts bucketing rain. We had to do 10 sprints up this hill in the middle of the night. Coaching staff did it with us.
After a gutful?
After a 12-hour session. Oh. And everyone did it. So I remember John Cartwright doing it in his undies. And everyone bar, I think Sticky and Ronnie did it. Ronnie might have done it with us, but it was just that mindset that we walk away and go, no one else is doing that. So that was when we started. We'd kick early in the set, so second or third tackle, and sprint down if it went out, and we'd pack the scrum. And so teams would look at us and go, oh man, not again. So it was almost that aura and presence that we had. That was probably by the second year, 2003, 2004, that we really nailed that sort of stuff. 2002 was a bit of a slow burn.
Chris Flannery recently, and he said, we knew we could win every game because we knew we were the fittest football side, and we had no doubts. He said it might be confidence and it might be arrogance, it doesn't matter. I knew we were the fittest football side, and we believed in each other.
And Sticky, in 2002, Sticky, the first meeting we had, I'll never forget this. He got us in. We did a few different things. He said, "What should we be aiming at this year?" We all sort of looked around and said, "We should win the comp." He goes, "Absolutely right. You should.
Yeah,
you should be winning the comp. If we don't have that mindset, then what's the point of us being here?" So we had that belief straight on. That year, I think we might have lost 4 of the first 5 games.
It wasn't a great start.
And maybe because the preseason we had, we weren't used to it, but we came out and lost maybe a dozen players with injuries. We had a heap of players out, and even at the end of the year we had, I remember coming in that final series, and we had maybe 6 of us that were needling up just to train through the week.
Wow.
We'd have a couple of days off, needle up for the captain's run, and then obviously play game day with needles. So that was our mindset. It was we weren't going to let anything stop us.
The 02 Grand Final, second year for you and a premiership ring. How important is that when you look back? Because you played in grand finals and lost them post that. But how big was 2002?
At the time, and in all honesty, so again, going back to my childhood, under 12s, whenever you start playing grand finals, we won every grand final all the way through my junior career. Because I was in such good teams.
Yep.
So that team at North that I was in, we used to beat Redcliffe, who I ended up going to.
Yeah.
And when I was at Redcliffe, we started beating North. And then came into grade. First grand final I lost was a Q Cup grand final the year before I went down to Sydney. And we lost in that grand final. I was like, that's not right. That's not how it is. So I I was so used to winning that I never really I took it for granted.
Yep.
Even that 0-2 grand final, I was like, this is how it should be.
It's meant to be.
This is normal, you know. As it wasn't until I was older and go through the next 2 years, we lose those games. Missed a grand final in 2006. Injured myself the game before. We lost that at the Storm, and then we won 2007. And I was a bit older then. I actually sat back and appreciated it a lot more. And then, you know, the back end of the career, I lost 2 prelims in a row in my last 2 years, which is way worse than actually losing a grand final. I lost a grand final 40-0. But losing a prelim is way worse. It's an awful feeling.
Because you haven't got there.
Because you actually don't get that experience of grand final week. And I don't know, it is disappointing to lose a grand final, but at least you get that experience, and it's you were given the shot at it. So, yeah, those ones were hard for me. But, yeah, mate, I honestly, I look back and I wish I could sit down at the time and reflect and think, this is really special. And hear those other stories of players that have played for 13 years and not actually been in a grand final, let alone won one. So I think, you know, one thing I've learned since I've gotten older, and my yoga teacher taught me this, you've got to take everything a lot slower. Like, do what you do in yoga and take it outside and just walk slow. Get in your car, drive slow, walk around slow, soak up as much of those experiences as you can. And my football career is a blur because that's not my mindset. I'm 100 miles an hour. Yeah. And like I said, as a kid, that was me. I was bull at a gate, still am at times, unless I catch myself and slow it down. So one thing I think a lot of kids, people in general life, need to do is just take down and appreciate little things, little moments that they have. I know now as you get older, it's one thing that I certainly need to do, because you realise that life is short. I'm sure a lot of us have got friends that we've lost at a young age, so you know life can be short. It could be over in a minute. So every moment that you have, if you make the most of it, it sits in your mind a lot better than what it was if it's just blur, champagne bottles, swig down, and just continue on with the party, which is what I'd been doing for a couple of years before that. So yeah, it was surreal. It was awesome. It was an amazing feeling, but certainly one that I didn't appreciate as much at the time.
In part 2 of the Michael Crocker story, State of Origin, the Kangaroo Tour that was dubbed the Kentucky-Roo Tour, and the 2 records he holds that will stun you. Throughout January, we're giving away 5 Andy Raymond Unfiltered Truckers hats every week. To win, simply leave a rating and review on your Apple Podcast app, screenshot it and email it to us at mailbox@andyraymondunfiltered.com.au. First 5 every week win. Simple. The Michael Crocker story will continue shortly. Make sure you come back soon, legends. Welcome back to Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Michael Crocker story. In part 1, we spoke about the early years, the brutality and intent of the Premiership-winning 2002 Roosters, and professionalism. The story continues. The real Michael Crocker has mentioned yoga. Before the interview, we talked about meditation, about mindfulness and breathing. It's all in complete contrast to the guy we saw on the field that was borderline nutcase at times.
It's funny, and you know what, I don't know what you thought of me before you met me, but a lot of people meet me, and I've had, you know, blokes that I've played with, their partners go, gee, I used to hate you as a footy player. Yeah. And I'm like, I probably would too. But I was like, I'm a teddy bear. I'm a cuddly big guy. I love life. Like, I love a laugh. I've never started a fight in my life. You know, it's just not me. And I think that's it. That's the competitive side in me coming out. So when I cross that line, I'm typical white line fever, and my job was to protect my teammates and be there. And if there was things that happened, I was always seemed to be around it. But I think I was just competitive, and I would like to think that no one thought of me as a grub, maybe borderline thug or a bit aggressive at times, but I don't think I did anything that was unsavoury.
No.
Like I said, I grew up watching people put firearms on faces, and even in my street, I knew that if we played under water and when the fields were flooded, the older guys would hold my head down, and if I blew up, they'd slap me and say, "Hey, you're on your back. We've got the right to hold you down." Yeah. And then they'd roll onto their back and say, "What are you doing? You can hold my head down." And so you learn that sort of physicality side of it and respect, and knowing that if your team, if someone got you on their back and gave you a little forearm, good luck to them. Yeah. It's up to you now to try and get them back. So I would have thought, like, possibly got angry at it, but that was the young, wild me.
I want to say you did it very easily. It's the wrong way of putting it, but you debuted, you won a premiership, then you debuted for state and country within an 18 or 20 month period. That is living life with a rocket strapped to your ass. Everything happened quickly. Did it feel like it was happening quickly?
Yeah, again, it was just something that happened, you know. I loved training. I loved being around the mates, and everything that I did, I would push myself every training session as hard as I could. And I guess as I was going through life as a junior footy player into the seniors, all of that other stuff, because I didn't play rep football or anything like that, you know, all those other things weren't on my radar. So obviously watching Origin and as a kid wanting to wear that jersey and be a part of that that battle, especially when I was watching it from Lang Park, you know, you sit there and go, this is pretty cool. Yeah. And watching that, you always, in your mind, every Queensland kid that I know have always just wanted to play for their state. And to be given that opportunity is really special, really humbling, really daunting. But again, my problem was that I missed game one. And my problem, I actually read a bit of my own press at that time. So there was a lot of calls. I was living in Sydney, and everyone was writing my name saying, you know, Crocker's a chance of the Origin. There's a bench spot there, blah, blah, blah. I didn't make it. I think it was one of the best things that ever actually happened to me, because it made me actually, I got emotionally upset about it, like missing the jersey. Again, you talk about people that you have a perception of. I didn't like Andrew G at the time as a player, because he was same sort of player as me, very physical. I was like, I don't like him, but I actually really appreciated the style of footy player he was. So he got one of the bench spots, which I thought I should have got. But that's my fault. I should not have been reading that press. I should not have been expecting anything. I should have just realised that my job is to go out there and play good footy for my club. Anything else that comes is a reward and a bonus. So that moment in my life, I think, made me realise that this is a special jersey. It's a special time of the year, and the people who are given that opportunity to play deserve it. And the coaches know a lot more than I do, so they wouldn't be picking other people in front of me if they didn't think that they were going to do a better job. And I dare say they would have in that game. So when I did come in, I was given an opportunity. I played hooker in my first game, which again was daunting. But I just remember coming into camp and sat down that first night and had Petro, Webby, Brad Thorne, Gordon Tallis, Andrew G, Lockie, all these guys around, Matty Singh, and just sitting there going, what am I doing here? You know,
was it like that, was it?
It was, man. And you get in there and just like, I don't belong here. I was lucky Wayne grabbed me and said, mate, I don't want you to do anything other than what you've been doing at club footy. All you'll need to do is do it. You've been picked for a reason. You've been picked because what you do at club footy is really good. You just need to do it at a little bit higher intensity for longer, because that's how Origin works. And he goes, I know that you're fit, and I know you love that competition, so you just make tackles, give good service to Lockie, and you don't have to worry about anything else, which is perfect, especially as a hooker. I didn't want to think much at all. We lost that game, so it was very underwhelming. I did score a try on debut. But it was an underwhelming try. And luckily, Wayne gave me a second chance on the bench for game 3. Young kid called Cam Smith came into hooker, who was going to be pretty good. So
he went okay.
Happily gave him my number 9 jersey, and we won that game. And that was my first game at Suncorp, so as it was, the new Suncorp. But just playing in front of that home crowd at Lang Park was really special.
Lang Park, it goes by a different name now, but to you and me, it's still Lang Park.
Always will be.
You played 13 games over 7 series. Is there a moment that stands out above all others, or are you equally proud of every moment in every game?
So there's a couple. The first one was running out at Lang Park, just to that, the fire on the side, the roar of the crowd, and just looking around. That was really special and something that you never forget. You know what I mean?
This is for the first time?
First time, yeah. The second one was scoring a try running off Lockie.
Yeah.
I hit a nice hole, scored a good try. We won that game. I think that's the one Matty Bowens took the intercept.
Yeah.
In Golden Point, and that was a special game. And then, so unfortunately, I went 2003, 4 and 5, where we lost those 3 series.
Yep.
Living in Sydney, all the press were, I don't know if you remember this, but all the press was, State of Origin's dead.
Yes.
Queensland will never win again. And that was the fuel to the fire. That's when Melbourne came in and changed everything. And we, back a few years before that, so Wayne started the emerging camps.
Yeah.
And we were passionate about it. So we had Choppy Close, we had Tosser Turner, these guys coming in and telling us these stories about why it all started, how it all started, why we hate New South Wales. And and I say that, right? And I chip my kids all the time for saying the word hate. They say, I hate this, I hate it. No, you don't. You just dislike that. The only thing we hate is New South Wales on Origin Day. Yeah. And if you wear blue on Origin Day, I will hate you too.
Yeah. So
that's the only time I'll use that word. But it's genuine. It's the stories that we were told. It's just like, wow, this is a different beast. And then you go out to the country and hear even more stories about how important the jersey is to people. And seeing the smiles on people's faces when you go out there, no matter how tough they're doing it.
It's a responsibility.
So, absolutely. And you look at guys like Nate Miles, right? No matter how he is playing, Dane Gago is probably the same as well. The way they play in a club doesn't matter. You put them into that Origin jersey, and Nate is still to this day my favourite ever Origin player. He's just a special beast. He would get out there. I remember 2006 when he got picked, I was like, I don't know if he's ready. He was only young. He was playing the Dogs. I was like, I don't know if he's ready. And he absolutely killed it. And I remember, so 2006, that year I got suspended for the whole Origin series. I got suspended for 9 games, I think, and Bill got suspended for 11 at the same time, Slater. So we missed that whole series. I remember actually sitting at Bill's place, and we got a little package from QRL, and we brought it home. We opened it, and it was a Fogs badge. So a former Origin greats badge with our Origin number on it. We're like, does this mean we're done? Like, are we never going to play again?
Yeah, have they brushed us?
Well, we're not Cogs, we're not current Origins. And so I remember we had a laugh about that. And obviously we missed that whole series. The last game was in Melbourne, so we were lucky enough to have a beer with the team after. Obviously, Mal and Gene and the coaching staff were keen to have us involved. So we had a beer with them. And I remember saying to Nate, like, mate, honestly, my bad at the start. I thought, you might have been a little bit young and not ready for it, but you were unbelievable. And every game he's played since then, no matter how he's been going, how he's feeling, what he's dealing with, absolutely kills it.
Yep,
I agree. I remember seeing him at times make a tackle, make another tackle, hardly get off the ground. I'm like, oh God, he's gone here. We're going around the middle of the ruck. Bang, he makes the next tackle.
Yep.
He always found something. And I think it's because his family hold that jersey so dearly. So that emotional input he's got drives into his performance. And that's really special. That's something that you can never replicate, really, can you? So, but it's to be around those guys and learn all that sort of stuff is phenomenal. And I think those stories continue to be told throughout the Origin arena. And Mal, what he did with all those ex-players coming back in the coaching staff, it's just something that everyone loves to be a part of. They get all these young kids telling the stories, and it's a little family that we've built up that is, again, it's to be a part of it and to be able to say, I was out there and I learned that stuff and played for my state is humbling.
Griffin Air Conditioning offers the highest quality of air conditioning sales and service across the Sydney metropolitan area, providing installation and maintenance to commercial, domestic and industrial customers. Working with this team, you'll be guaranteed the latest services, technology and developments in the industry. Visit griffinair.com.au and tell them we sent you. for a cool deal.
And then 2007, so next year I've actually missed that one as well. I actually remember I was busted through the year, and I said to Craig, I said, mate, I'm no good. Like, my shoulders, both of them were bad at the time. And I said, mate, that's it for the season, mate. I'm just going to get these shoulders done.
Yep.
Full reconstructions.
Is this your first year in Melbourne? Second year.
Yeah, so 2006, I missed the grand final. I did my knee the game before. So missed that one. But then, it was heaps of injuries through 2007 with these shoulders. And I sat down and said, mate, I can't do this anymore. I just need to get these fixed and come back and have a full pre-season and just be fresh for 2008. Craig grabbed me and said, mate, I think we've got something special here this year. Like, is there any way we can get you through the rest of the year? I said, we'll go and see the surgeon, see what he says. Greg Hoy, who fixed Shane Warne's shoulder, was based in Melbourne, went and saw him. He goes, we'll do a little surgery on your right one. While you're recovering from that, we'll rehab the left. I reckon we'll get through. So got the surgery done before game one. So missed that full series as well. Second one, Queensland won in that space. So that was hard to watch, but thankfully got back in time. I played the last 4 games of that year as well. So, so then come to, this has been a long way around, but 2008 when we won. Well, I was a part of my first winning series. Yes, it was the first time we won in Sydney in maybe a decade or 8 years or whatever it was since it was 8 or 9 years. Yeah, that was the first time we had won at ANZ.
Yes,
and that was game 3. It was a decider. It was actually I think I got knocked out by the ball that game as well. So it was kind of special for the wrong reason. But I remember. The feeling of winning that shield and the celebrations after was really special.
The sport is built on great rivalries from club to club, from fan to fan, but individually. You and Mark O'Mealy at Origin, 2 guys that had a job. You took pride in your job, and it sometimes just meant having a crack. There's only room for one big dog in the yard. And you were both vying for that one position.
Ogre's funny, right? So I didn't realise this until after, but he would strike names on the big league program a couple of weeks in advance. He's like, okay, Roosters, yep, you, if something happens, you're on my list. But I remember under 17s, again, I didn't play rep, so the Queensland 17s were playing New South Wales at Lang Park. Yeah. And my dad was doing some stuff with QRL, or he was duty official or whatever, so I came along and watched this game. So we'd heard about this kid called Carl Webb, who was 16, he's a year younger than me, playing in that under-17s team. We knew he was a Golden Gloves champion of Townsville or North Queensland or whatever. But then there was all these stories coming out of New South Wales about this kid called O'Mealy,
a crazy kid.
Who was a crazy, bald-headed kid who his old man used to take him out on street fights when he was a teenager. Mate, they went toe-to-toe in this game. It was it was just like slugfest, bang, bang, bang. No one got hurt, but it went for a decent time. And I was just sitting down, again, still 17, so I was a skinny little kid going, it's pretty impressive. And then it came into that game and I never really had any thought. Like, I never looked at someone as like, I want to have a crack at this guy. It's like, if I can put a shot on someone, whoever's in front of me, I didn't care if it was a hook or a halfback or if it was a forward, even better. But a lot of the time my job was to hit the halfback. Yeah. And I was told to hit halfbacks. If they came to the line, you had to hit them. And all the best halfbacks would come close to the line. So I had a free shot, given Ricky's instructions that I was allowed to hit them. So, yeah, mate, when he flopped on someone and I pushed him, as soon as I pushed him, he looked up, I was like, he's coming at me. And I think he got done for throwing it first, but it was kind of simultaneous. A couple of little slaps, a couple of handbags. We missed the last couple of uppercuts. But I do remember, I'm pretty sure the first couple got him decent. Not enough to drop him or mark him or anything. But after the game, we're at a bar called Good Bar in Sydney, downstairs, underground, dark, dingy, right? It's a Wednesday night. This place was pumping for some reason. Obviously, maybe a few people had come back from the western suburbs, or maybe that was just Oxford Street back in those days. I got a tap on the shoulder and turned around. It was a girl, and she's gone, that was effing awesome. That's what Origin's all about. I loved it. It's like, sorry? She's like, oh, no, sorry. I'm Sandy, Shrek's wife, Mark O'Mealy's wife. She's gone, Ogre, get over here. You owe him a beer. He got you, didn't he? I was like, I don't think I really got him. He goes, nah, mate. We had a drink, shook hands. Exactly how it should be. No one got hurt. Mutual respect. Always had respect for him. I think he ran at me after that don't know if it was that game or another one, but I remember off the kickoff, he just looked and went, "Yes, you."
Yeah,
and he sat me on my bum. I tried to hit him again, and he won that one. So yeah, a lot of, I think, mutual respect is really important, and
yes,
what happens on the field stays on the field, and you respect the guys that. It's not even a code, but it's just human nature. You know, like sport is sport. It's not life. Don't hold grudges. If someone's coming at you because you're wearing a different jersey, that's their job. Yeah. That's what they're there to do. We're elite athletes playing a physical sport, and you think about it, we are essentially the gladiators of our time. And at first grade footballs are the gladiators of our time. Or MMA is probably more so now and boxing, but people go to football to watch the collisions, to watch the contact.
MMA and boxing doesn't have that tribalism that rugby league does.
True. Yeah, it is. And individual sports are a lot different.
I miss that type of thing that you and Mark had. And without sounding like a dinosaur, I think the game is actually poorer without it. It's a tough sport for tough blokes, and not everyone's a tough bloke. Do you think the game has done the right thing by eliminating the stinks? You're 40 years of age now. You got, two young blokes that you care for and you love for, and you're trying to set an example for. But it's a sport that's not for everyone.
I understand why, especially with shoulder charges in the fight. I understand the why. I'm a true believer that football players, NRL players at that top level are elite.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between elite athletes and then what happens underneath them. And I think what the junior codes had already done to protect young kids was well and above what needed to be done. So all the rules are in place. And I understand that kids watch what happens on TV and want to replicate that. But as long as they're punished at a junior level for doing that at that age group, and they understand that they're going to get punished hard if they do it wrong, then it wouldn't happen. There's obviously outside factors and parents and poor referees that can't control that sort of stuff, which is something that we continually need to work on. But I think as you come into that, senior role of football, the physicality still should be there. And I think I'm not going to say we're poorer for it because we've still got a great product, but I miss it. Yeah. I miss it. I understand it, but I don't think no one's ever been hurt in a fight, have they?
People get hurt from spear tackles, from elbows to the jaw, from chicken wings, and a whole range of other indecent acts.
At least with fights, not like some of the fights in the old days, especially in the BRL and QRL, there were some violent ones. I remember seeing a video of Ross Hendricks, bless his soul, coming in when he was playing for Valleys, and he just absolutely rocked someone from over the top. Yeah. So at least it was, if it was on, you usually knew it was going to be on, and no one really got hurt there. Is it a good look? If it's 1-on-1, I don't think it's a bad look, is it? If it's all in, it's not great. Doesn't rarely happen in the last 20 years. Probably not since that one of those big all-ins in.
Well, that was 2004, mate. We'll wind back one season to 2003, Kangaroo Tour, France and England.
The Canterbury Tour, you mean?
Who was your roomie? What'd you learn?
Danny Badiris. So great roommate to have. He was an absolute ripper. But mate, it was, and I don't know if you remember this, but so we went to New Zealand. We lost over there.
Yes.
And it was a kangaroo tour, so it was the last of the actual kangaroo tours. So we lost that one, and we had a really young team. So we had heaps of halves, and back rowers were out. So we had young halves. We had young back rowers. So myself got a start. Trent Waterhouse, Joel Clinton, those guys. Luke Lewis was on the wing. He got a start. So a heap of those Penrith players got a start. A few Roosters. And we were written off early. We got beaten in New Zealand. And Chris Anderson was our coach. Opes, great coach, great tour coach. He said to the management, "We need these guys to bond, so we're going to take them. We're going to take them to Barcelona for 3 days to bond, and bond we did. We had a great time. We bonded really well.
Bonding equates to lots of schooners.
Correct. Yeah. Steins and fish bowls over in Barcelona. But a great time. a lot of fun. Craig Gow was there. Fitzy was outstanding. Lockie was there. Daryl Lockyer was there, not Darren. Yeah. Daryl was there. But Minicello...
Daryl was a loose unit.
Daryl was, and probably still is when he comes out, a very loose unit. But it was, Minicello, Ricketson was there. We had Bobby Kay. Then we had Petro, Webby. So we had a couple of good senior figures. Bedsy was obviously a senior player as well, and a really good role model. So we had all those guys to look after us, and then all the young kids, we just brought that energy and fun and enthusiasm. And mate, we had fun in Barcelona.
You're listening to Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Legends series. We have corporate and private sponsorship packages available. You set the terms. For further information on how you can become part of the team, go to the website andyraymondunfiltered.com.au and hit the sponsorship tab.
Flew into Perpignan, played the French team on a, what was that probably? I think that was a Saturday night actually, and Friday night, sorry, and just beat them by 10 points or something like that. We actually had to let them score, otherwise apparently there was going to be riots and stuff, and I was like, we're not letting them score.
Is that right?
And so we were competing. They're like, Croc, just let them score. And I'm like, no. They're like, let them score or there's going to be riots. I'm like, all right, if they must.
Miss a tackle,
So they've scored. I didn't let through. I don't think I wouldn't. I couldn't do it. Mentally would have done my head in. But yeah, so we just beat the French team. Flew into London. Weren't supposed to have a drink, but a few of us went on a little walk, and a few of us, I think about 20 of the 25 man squad went on a walk and ended up at the Shepherd's Bush walkabout.
Okay.
My first introduction to snake bites, jugs of snake bites as well. What a night that was. That was an absolute cracker. We played the England A team on Tuesday. So all we had to do was a little run in the morning and then a captain's run on the Monday. Played the England A team, beat them by 6. So you know what the English press is like. This is the worst Australian team of all time. Already written us off. It was, we were millions of winning. And I remember Willie Mason was interviewed at that time, and he's like, mate, to be fair, it's been like a Kentucky tour. We get on a bus, we have a drink, we get on a bus, we go somewhere else, we have a drink, play a little bit of footy here, we have a few beers, we get on another bus, we go somewhere else. And it was exactly like that. But we came into, and then they labelled us a Kentucky Roos. And we went out there, game 1 was the one where Adrian Morley got sent off and Robbie Kearns got knocked out.
That was the first tackle of the first
off the
test.
Kickoff.
And Adrian Morley tried to decapitate him.
And it's lazy, careless. It was careless grade 1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Paid a fine, played game 2.
Exactly
how it should be. And Bobby Kay was sweet, thankfully. Mate, and we came back and we won. I think Luke Ricketson, who hadn't scored a try all year, scored on the buzzer for us to win. So they thought this was a lucky win.
And you got into a stink and got sin-binned.
I did with a winger.
Yeah.
How embarrassing is that? It was a good winger, but it was Brian Carney.
Brian Carney, yeah.
I remember that. Something happened. I actually saw someone sent me a clip of it recently about it 6 months ago. And it was nothing in it. And he sort of pushed me as I was on my way to the ground, and I swung at him, and we got up and threw a couple of handbags at each other and both got marched for 10, which I thought was funny, especially over there where they love a stink.
Yeah.
And, mate, so we won that game, and we were still written off. We still weren't expected to win game 2 and 3. And, we came out and won both of those games on the buzzer. The first 3-0 series since the Invincibles, I think, in 86. 86. Is that correct?
Game 3, you played 5/8 too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So
there's a little trivia question.
Mate, so I've asked this at a heap of trivia nights. So who played hooker for Queensland before Cam Smith? Me.
M. Crocker.
And who played 5/8 for Australia before Darren Lockyer?
M. Crocker.
That's me.
That's a beauty.
Lockie was still playing fullback, and he was golden boot. So Opes didn't want him to come in anywhere. And we had Wingy was playing hooker, I think. So Gowie was injured, Gerds was injured. I think Julian Bailey might have been injured. He brought Darren Smith in, who was playing at
he was playing over in England, there, yeah.
But he wanted to use him off the bench. So we had a number of different options. But Opes said, mate, I want you to play 5/8. How do you reckon you feel? I was like, well, played a little bit as a kid. If not, he lets me kick, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Not he didn't let me kick. But yeah, played 5/8 and we ended up winning that game. So it's a jersey that I've got at home, and it's
That's
one that I'm
cool.
really, really proud of.
you established, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but you established a reputation as a tough guy. There's pressure that comes with that tag, isn't there? Because you immediately become the target. And it doesn't matter if it's club football, origin football or test football. If you're the tough guy or seen as the tough guy, you're the target.
Yeah, and as a young kid, or probably all the way up until, or not probably, definitely until I moved down to Melbourne, I loved it, you know, I didn't really care. I never thought about it like that. I never thought of myself as a tough. I was playing with Adrian Morley, so I was like a baby compared to him. Like I was a little child, so yeah, I wasn't tough. Quinton Pongia was there at the time as well. We had a heap of much tougher guys than me around, so I never thought of myself as a tough guy. I just thought of myself as a tough competitor. I knew I had a reasonable pain threshold. I can deal with and play through pain, that sort of stuff. But never thought of myself as that tough intimidator type role. But as a you come in a couple of years in and people start targeting you, I was really bad at I'd get caught up in it. And I'd be like,
you couldn't ignore
as soon as someone got me, I'd be filthy at myself that they got me. Then I'd be like, focused on them. I'd be like, okay, I need to get them back. So I wouldn't be thinking of the team, and I'd give away silly penalties to try and do that sort of stuff.
You'd make it personal?
Not even personal, but it was just like, okay, well, I'm one up though. It was almost like, it was a game, right? So they had 1 point on me. I had to get a point back at least. So yeah, nothing was ever personal. It was more that pride. Like I would actually get filthy at myself if someone got a good shot on me, or got to put their forearm in my face. I'd be filthy that I was in that position that they were able to do it. So I'd be filthy on myself, but then I'd be like, nah, well, I have to win this battle. I need to get back at them. So that was always my mindset. When I moved to Melbourne, and it was one thing. This was the saviour of my career, really. I was in some off-field troubles in Sydney. Caught up in the lifestyle there. I needed to get out, and I always thought I was going to be a one club player, right? I love the Roosters, I love the team, I love the club, I love the area, and it was something I always thought, I just want to play here. This is me. Got in a bit of trouble end of 2005 off season. Ended up playing Oztag in the off season. Did my knee, had surgery after Christmas, missed the start of the season, came back, got suspended after one game. And that was when I think Sticky and the board got together and was like, well, we're not really getting value for money out of Croc. Then went away to Origin, then I was away for another six weeks. So yeah, it was a good thing that they actually came to me and tapped me on the shoulder and said, you may as well start looking somewhere else.
It's time.
Had a couple of options, but Melbourne, mum and dad were down there. My sister was down there. She had a kid. So it was a really good fit, and I'd heard a lot about Melbourne. Okay. Went down there, met Craig, met the football staff. Really liked what I saw. So, mate, that was my decision. I was happy with it. Finished the rest of the year as good as I could. Obviously, wasn't a great year for us. It was the first year we missed the finals. Yeah. And it was also coincided with the first year that Ricky was the first ever time that a coach made the team train until grand final day.
Yep.
And I said, I'm not training.
That's right, yeah.
I'm not here next year. I'm not training for you now. So I got to go on a road trip up and down the coast of Sydney, surfing, eating good food. Got away from footy for 8 weeks. Melbourne made up to the prelims, so we didn't come back until the first or second week of November. So I had a really good break. Came back just fresh. Didn't do any training, but felt really good. And I remember the first couple of weeks of training, Craig sat me down with Dave Kidwell, Jeremy Smith, Ben Cross, Garrett Crossman, I think, was there at the time, and sort of said, "What do you see when you look around here?" Like, "Oh, well, we're all kind of aggressive players." He goes, "Yeah, love that. I love aggressive players. I love how tough you guys are, but you guys give away silly penalties a lot of the time, and that hurts the team." He goes, "I think if you look at the way you live your life off the field, that'll replicate how you play on the field. And if you learn from these guys around here and the culture that we've got, I think you'll get it pretty soon." That's all he ever said to us. Didn't say, I came down.
Didn't say renowned for my
renowned for my partying and looseness off the field. So didn't say to me, "Don't drink, don't do this." It wouldn't have worked, I don't think.
Because by this stage, you'd had issues in Sydney. And for those that aren't aware, we're not going to go into all the details, But you did get into a stink with an off-duty copper, which is a
No.
really bad move.
So for starters, my mate got into a fight with two guys, and I came in and grabbed one of those. Didn't even throw a punch, got capsicum sprayed. And then as we were walking off, one of the undercover detectives grabbed my mate, and he sort of palmed him away, and then he got in trouble for that. So I'd already been capsicum sprayed, so I was walking towards the beach. I was like, I'm just going to the water, just leaving. I couldn't see anything, so that all happened, and I got fined. We didn't get charged for anything. We went to court, but nothing happened with it.
No, nothing did.
But I had a birthday party the next day. So you talk about rules and different things. So 2002, or the first 5 years at the Roosters, first 5 years at the Roosters, we would drink Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we would do whatever we want. But all of those who had a drink, we would win the fitness on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We would win everything. We would come and just rip in and train as hard as we could, and that's just how we did it. So 2005,
Burning
after
both
losing,
ends of the candle.
Correct. In 2005, we lost, obviously, 2003, 2004 grand finals. So we came into preseason, and Ricky said, "You're not allowed to go to Coogee. You're not allowed to go out 2 nights in a row. You're not allowed to go to the Cross. You're not allowed to go to Oxford Street." Like, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
Figure it out. So I think Brett Finch sums it up best. If you give you watch a kid walk past a wet paint, don't touch sign, how many of those kids are going to touch that wet paint sign?
Yes.
And they'll come back the next day, they'll be like, still wet. Come back the next day, they'll be doing it until it's dry. Probably will never dry. It keeps getting topped up, but they'll touch that until it's not wet or that sign's not there. So the more rules that are put on young men, and I think this is why Craig, Bellamy and Wayne are so well, obviously had the longest careers, will have the longest careers of any of our coaches at the current group, but have been so successful over so long because they're the two coaches that don't put rules on their kids. They allow them to make their own decisions and grow up as men, which is really important. I think it's really important for any young coach or parent, teacher, whoever it is, to learn that you need kids to make their own decisions. I never made a decision my whole life. My mum did everything for me. I was blessed. Everything was done for me. I just had to go to school, come home, go to footy, do my all I had to do was do my homework, but I was told to do that anyway. So I just had to eat, which is a pretty easy thing to do because you need to eat.
Yeah.
And then you come into football and you've got your manager doing everything, and you get a girlfriend. Your girlfriend does everything, whatever it is. Yep. So some kids never have to make a decision their whole life. So the more you can encourage young kids to think for themselves, learn for themselves, the quicker they're going to grow up and be men, which is, I think, what Craig did with us in that time, and what he certainly did that for me. He empowered me to make my own decisions and learn from others and go, okay, well, that's right, that's wrong, that's not, that's what he's doing. And then I became a man in 3 years. I became more of a man in 3 years than I had in the previous 10.
In part 3 of the Michael Crocker story, we talk leadership, salary caps and retirement, and the reality of when the playing journey is over. Throughout January, we're giving away 5 Andy Raymond Unfiltered Truckers hats every week. To win, simply leave a rating and review on your Apple Podcast app, screenshot it and email it to us at mailbox@andyraymondunfiltered.com.au. First 5 every week win. The Michael Crocker story will continue shortly. Make sure you come back soon, legends. Welcome back to Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Michael Crocker story. Previously, we chatted about evolution, of the player and of the man. We've detailed the achievements, the disappointments, and the emotion. The story continues. Did Craig Bellamy change you as a bloke more so than as a footballer?
Yeah. And I learned a lot of my parents, obviously, like I said, with my manners and discipline and work ethic, all that stuff was from my parents. But Craig taught me in that short space of time how to be a man and a good man and a role model to the other young kids around. So at that time, I wasn't a senior player, but we had a pretty young group, and I was put in that leadership group, or picked in that leadership group that first year. So we had Cam coming through, Cooper, Bill, but then we had Matt Geyer, and Dave Kidwell and Scott Hill. So they were our three senior players. And apart from those three, the next one was probably Matt King, who was 20 year older than me, I think, 26.
Pretty special group of young men, wasn't it?
Yeah, so everyone was 26 and under from that point. So I was 25, turning 26. And that was still young in terms of as a man, I was really immature. I was a really immature 25-year-old.
I'm an immature 40-something-year-old.
Yeah, I tell my partner Kiri that, and she'll say, "You're still immature," and I am at times. But I think that's the little kid in me. But yeah, so I think that point in my life was a really important lesson for me to learn, that all these other young kids around me were watching what I was doing. Yep. So if I was going out and doing the wrong things all the time, these kids would be going, "Well, he's doing it. That's fine."
Then it became acceptable.
Correct. And that's what you learnt from everyone in Melbourne. That's why their culture is so strong, because the senior players lead by their actions, and they're also able to have those courageous conversations with everyone else around them to make sure that the kids, if they mess up once, that's fine. Young kids are going to mess up. They're going to make bad decisions, but you shouldn't be making that decision twice.
I've known you for 20 years. I've known you since before your debut. I've always seen you as a leader on and off the field. Is that a natural characteristic for you, or is it something that's that you're uncomfortable with, or you're not, that you've had to work on, or does it come naturally?
It's a funny one. So like I said, I was the shyest kid. I was really around other people. I was just really withdrawn and until I was comfortable. And I think it's still in certain situations, until I know a group, I am a little bit, sit back a little bit and just sort of read the room. But yeah, I'm more confident now. I can actually, thrust myself into a situation and then go from there. But yeah, it's still daunting for me to go into groups and different things like that. But it's one thing I've learned this from a business coach of mine, Luke Mathers, he's got this term called the glue guy. And the glue guy is the guy that every organisation, every team, you need to have a few of those around, and they're the guys that bring everyone together, right? So my whole career, I think, was made out of effort, energy, and fun.
You're the glue guy.
And that's the glue guy. The glue guy has that positive mindset, and he brings other people up around you. So, and I'm not telling people to be better. I'm just, my actions and energy, that will lift other people. If they're having a bad day, I try and, whether it's a joke or a cuddle or whatever it is, you try and get the best out of everyone around you. It's not about doing it by yourself. It's about doing it as a team. And that I've loved that, having that mindset and learning those sorts of things and looking back and going, well, that's pretty cool. And it's really true that those sorts of people do have an influence on other people. And I think that's something that I've always wanted. Now that I know it, is about trying to make other people's lives better by being in it.
Your time in Melbourne, you had 3 seasons there, very successful 3 seasons, but it included the 2007 grand final in a Storm jersey. As we sit here in 2021, do you consider that a premiership to your name?
Absolutely. I know a lot of people disagree, and I'm not saying what happened was right, but as players, we didn't know. You never know what other people are on, and I think management and different people who are involved in rugby league obviously making bad decisions, but they're making those decisions knowing that it's wrong, and it's been happening for...
That's the hard part, because you guys end up the public face. As a player, you end up the public face of a shit fight, but the bloke who is sitting in front of the calculator that has masterminded this often gets off without his name or picture in the paper.
Yeah, it's a frustrating one. And I've spoken to a lot of former players, and I think salary cap breaches, as you might like to call them, have been happening since the 90s, probably earlier. Probably even longer. Probably going. Actually, I've heard some stories about certain clubs in the 70s. So I dare say that it's been going on for a long time. I dare say that you could.
If we're going to be honest, it's still happening.
I'll put it out there, Raymond, that I don't think that many teams other than the Panthers and the Tigers in the last 20 years have won the comp and not been under the cap.
I agree.
And whether it's
happens.
100,000 or a couple of whatever, I'm sure it's happening.
Yep.
And I'm not going to begrudge someone for earning a bit of extra cash, because those people that are earning it more than likely don't know that it's coming from a source that it shouldn't
That's right. Mick, at the end of your tenure at the Melbourne Storm, you looked into Hull FC. You couldn't get a visa to head to the UK.
Didn't want to take their convicts back, apparently.
They didn't want to take the convicts back.
How dare they?
You looked at retirement as a genuine option, and you ended up at South Sydney.
So, mate, I had a beer with Craig Bellamy not long ago. We've spoken about this a number of times, and I'm not one for regrets, but I would love to have gone back in that time. So 2008, started 2008, first game. We're just off the back of 2 grand finals in a row.
Yep.
First game, pre-season, felt unreal, really good. I had shoulder surgery. There's that froggy's back.
Yeah,
Hope that's the one you brought back to life.
There is
He's probably having a baby.
rain coming on the Sunshine Coast, and the frogs on the front veranda are starting to voice their opinion.
So pre-season felt really good. 2008 pre-season. Game 1 was against Brisbane. As a Queensland kid, and knowing that Brisbane were always a really successful team, every time you played Brisbane, you were up.
Yep.
Got into that shed before the game, home game for us. Felt nothing. Felt absolutely no emotion for the game. And I'm a guy that gets in there. I'm absolutely rats for the first hour. Once that half hour bell ticks, so we're about to go into warm-up, game's on. Like, I'm switched on. I can flick that switch. So that's when I get excited, and I just sat there and went, doing the warm-up, just going through the motions, was like talking, still talking, but I didn't feel anything. I got out there that whole year. I actually had a reasonable year, felt really good all the way through. But that second game we played Manly, who we just played in the grand final before. The rivalry was obviously starting. Felt nothing. So didn't think too much of it at the start, and then kept going sort of midway through the year. I know at one point, Clint Newton was looking to leave as well. Clint Newton had already left and was like, okay, well, if there's sacrifices we need to make for salary cap to keep some other players, I'm thinking about leaving. And Craig's like, really? I was like, and then explained it to him. And looking back on it now, because I trained as hard as I could every day, every session, like I would come in after some captain's runs, and if I didn't feel right physically, I'd do a 1K time trial on the rower just to see where I was at actually on the thing.
Wow.
But I was going too hard. Even 2009 State of Origin, I remember being there. I was fresh. I missed that start of the season. Did the captain's run, and I was absolutely buzzing. This is the first game in Melbourne, buzzing captain's run, and I reckon I've done an extra 6K of like running, chasing after balls and kicking footies at the end of the game, end of the session. That's how excited I was. Well, I burnt most of that energy. I played okay, but I'd burn all of that energy. But I didn't have that thought process, or someone pulling me back and saying, mate, you need to ease up a little bit. And I had nothing else other than football as well. So I didn't have any hobbies. I was surfing a little bit at the Roosters, but once I moved to Melbourne, didn't really have surf. So I had my dogs, and that was it. So I didn't have that balance. I was just like footy. And that mentally and emotionally burnt me out. So if there's one thing that I could change in my career, it would be having something else outside of football, especially in that early part of my career, and having that ability to get away from football, not push myself as hard, like know when to pull back and not push through pain and physical barriers, and just try and understand myself a little bit better, and then just have that life balance and appreciation for life away from football.
If you're enjoying Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Legends series, we'd love for you to go to Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening and subscribe to the podcast and give us a 5-star rating and review. Best weekly review wins an Unfiltered Trucker's hat.
As you matured, and because you had so much success at the Roosters and Storm, your time at South Sydney, for some, would be easy to gloss over, simply because you didn't win a premiership. But it wasn't about premierships at that time at South Sydney. It was about building a club, a culture, an environment. And as we sit here now, that building has been successful.
So, mate, I look back on it now, I'm really proud of that time.
As you should be.
Played there. I ended up playing there 6 years, which was, I think, the same as the Roosters. So we got there. I got there, and so middle of 2009.
Yep.
Roy Asatasi had signed. Reece Wessel was there. Wingy was there. I thought John Sutton, all these other young kids were coming through. So there was a decent squad starting to build. I got there in the middle of the year, and usually when a new player comes to the club, there's a little bit of excitement, And I think they were off the back of 3 or 4 losses, and came downstairs. Like I said, Redfern's all underground. Got down there, and it's all like miserable. And I was like, "What's wrong?" And they're like, "Oh, it was a tough week, and the coaches aren't happy." And so it was like a really miserable sort of environment, and there was no fun and enjoyment sort of stuff there. So, that's what I love training. I love being out there, having all that sort of fun.
Go back to it.
And then the next year, Sammy Burgess comes, and he's exactly the same, just loves it. And, we're trying to drive some standards within the club, and what we're doing at the training field and performances on the field, it wasn't quite happening. And then Michael Maguire comes in, and we missed the finals those 3 years, like 9, 10 and 11 by one game.
Yep.
A few of those years, we just had to win one of the last 3.
And couldn't quite get it done.
So that was really frustrating. And then Sammy Burgess arrives, and then Madge comes, and Matt King comes. We're starting to Greg Inglis. We're starting to build a really good roster. And Mike Maguire was again exactly what the club needed at the time. We needed someone to just drive everything from start to finish, and that's what he does. And he did it really well. And we pushed ourselves through pre-seasons. That first year, 2012, we lost the prelim, and I think if Adam Reynolds doesn't do his hammy in that game against the Dogs, we go on to play in that grand final and give ourselves a chance of winning it, which would have been against the Roosters. I think.
You're testing.
No, sorry, 12 was the Dogs. So that would have been in Storm. 13, we got beaten by Manly, and if we won, that would have been against the Roosters.
Yep,
that would have been a cracking grand final. So we missed those two games. But in that time, myself and Matt King retired that time. Lottie had come into the club as well. Then Ben Teo came, and so this squad that came into the next year were full of local juniors: Adam Reynolds, Jason Clark, Nathan Peets, Josh Mansour, all these young kids that had been around each other for a long time as well. So watching them develop and being able to train with them and learn from them and help trying to develop them was really rewarding to see that the way they progressed. And then that year in 2014, that was a pretty special one for the club and for the community. I think for rugby league to have South come back from where they were in early 2000s to winning the comp and as Russell would put it, being the pride of the game again.
And a proud time for you guys who had built that culture and built that club. Retirement at the end of 2013, officially anyway, because it was before the end of the season. Had the body just given out, mate?
It's a funny one. So 2012, I played every game. It's the first time I played every game, I think, my whole career. And so that year felt unreal. Pre-season, it felt good. And then we were on an army camp, and I'd had a few groin issues and stuff. And then we were doing a wrestling, tackling, contact session. Then we had one of the trainers from the army come, and we did a whole heap of burpees at the end of it. Ended up, I had a little twinge in my knee. I was like, that's not great. And then just didn't get better. And was like, this isn't right. So I got a little clean out. And then it just, for the rest of the year, didn't come good. Everything I tried, I tried resting, tried working it harder, tried doing everything else. Nothing was working. So I was just basically I would still do a bit of the training and stuff, but couldn't really run too much because it would pull up too sore. And then it was about 4 weeks to go before the finals, and I did a couple of sessions through the week, and then I pulled up okay. And one captain's run, I said to Madge, mate, I reckon I could play tomorrow. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. I said, I feel good today, but if it, we'll see how it pulls up. And he goes, mate, if it pulls up, sweet, we'll give you a run. We'll go out to the North and for the North Sydney Bears. It was our feeder team. I said, mate, have a run and see how we go. But he was shocked, and I was shocked that I was actually feeling good. So, but I remember Matty King had, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, he'd been dropped, I think, a week before that. He was playing for the Bears as well, and he was kicking stones around a little bit, the big fella, and I was like, mate, how good is this? We get to play together, we'll come back, we'll go out there, we'll kill it, we'll give ourselves a nice little run, we'll play the next 3 games, and we'll play in a grand final. This is going to be our last season, we're going to absolutely demolish it. I actually didn't have that mindset it was going to be my last, but I was like, talk it up. I just wanted Kingy to get excited. I remember we got out there, we were playing at Windsor. I don't know if Kingy's car broke down or something, but it took him 2.5 hours or something to get out there. He came in an awful mood. We're in like a little demountable shed. I was excited. I was sat on the bench, and Kingy was playing fullback. He's dropped the first 3 kicks that came to him. No. We were down 18-0 after about 15 minutes. Anyway, I came on, played the rest of that half. Felt all right, felt reasonably good. Lungs were good, leg was good. Got a little cut on my right knee, which was my good one, just before halftime, chasing down when they scored another try. I must have hit a little rock or a bit of glass or something. Anyway, taped it up, played the rest of the game, finished it, was like, oh, it's all right. And then went to take my boots off, and a heap of blood squirted out about 1 metre in front of me. Oh. I was like, might need to get a doctor, might need to get this stitched up. Anyway, so we didn't have a doctor there. So I've gone in and asked for the Penrith doctor, and he I said, I'll just have a quick tub, and he went, sort of rolled his eyes inside, and I went, you got something planned tonight, doc? He's like, yeah, I've got something to go to. I was like, well, I'm just going to have a shower, I'll just give it a quick rinse out or whatever. Anyway, so stitched up, thought nothing of it. Came the next day, I was a little bit red, so got some antibiotics. Day after that was even worse, kept taking the antibiotics. Went and saw the doc, got some intravenous ones. The next day after that was even worse, could barely walk. Was really, really swollen, starting to get red and hot, like hot from quad down to calf.
And you're thinking,
And then I was like, my partner at the time was like, you need to go to the hospital. This is how people died in the army. Like, you're going to die. I'm like, no, I'm not. I've just had 2 rounds of intravenous antibiotics. Yeah. I'll give it another half hour. Anyway, by, I think, 11 o'clock that night, I couldn't walk 10 metres. I could barely shuffle my leg, and I was like, it's probably time. I went, and I was still in my mind, I was like, just ride it out overnight. But yeah, it was really painful. So I went to the hospital. They got me in, I had cellulitis, which was starting to spread and go into my glands and stuff like that. So I had surgery, cleaned it all out, cut it out. I was in hospital for 3 days. Came back, once I got out of hospital, the scar tissue had stuck my skin to my kneecap, so I couldn't bend my knee. So I had the physio and everyone on I was like face down on the beds, and they were like trying to pull my knee back like a lever, like the old school poker machines. I was like, just keep going, do we need to loosen this up? Anyway, so in that time, I was trying to get that working again. Left knee flared up again. And I was just like, you know what, this is a sign. It's the tiniest little, like a 1 centimetre cut. That was it. That's what. And after everything I went through, all the dumb things I've done off the field, and all the way I pushed my body in games and training, that one little cut was the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I eventually just said, you know what, that's me. I've had a good run. I certainly can't complain. So yeah, it was no fanfare, but it was just one of those things. It was time, and I was happy with that. I obviously want to play forever, but I was really still proud of what I had achieved and where I was at. So yeah.
What are you most proud of as a footballer?
I think just having mates and other people say that I was good to play with. Yep. That's important. That's all I ever wanted. So, mate, accolades, awards, rep teams doesn't really mean, like, it's for me wearing that, having been a part of that Queensland system, that's the most special thing. But yeah, for me, it was always about my teammates, how I was perceived by them. I couldn't give a rat's about what the opposition thought of me. I always wanted to be known as a good person by other people. If I met them, I was always respectful. Respect's really big for me, so I always like to give people time and respect. But yeah, for me, it was my teammates knowing that I would do whatever I could to play for them and do my best for them.
Biggest regret?
Like I said, I don't have many regrets, but if I could change a few things, obviously that time in Melbourne I would change, but I would also love to tell the younger me about nutrition and stretching and recovery and looking after your body and eating well and having that balance. So obviously, but that's, mate, to be fair, who knows? We might not have played as well as we did as that team at the Roosters if we didn't live the lives we lived. So, yeah, I think for me, my football journey replicates my life. Like Roosters, young and wild, and that's how we played and trained, and that's how I lived. I went to Melbourne, started developing as a man, growing, and then essentially at the Rabbitohs, I was, apart from maybe 2 in the first couple of years, for the last 4 years at the Rabbitohs, I think I was the oldest player. So it's almost like I felt like a dad figure to all these young kids. So, yeah, and I was starting to become more of a man and living a better life. And I think it's flowed on. So hopefully I'm starting to become a better dad and a better man, and I will continue to grow as a person. It's obviously you have its struggles. It's retirement's not easy, and figuring out what you want to do in life is difficult. And I've been blessed to have some really good opportunities since I retired, since I transitioned. But it's been it's still difficult. Like it's still a pretty hard thing to understand. I think unless you've been there and walked through it. Like you look at all my other mates now, and they all started their trades when they were out of school and well established in their businesses now. They're at the top of the game, and no matter what I go into, even if I went into coaching, whatever I went into, even if it was in anywhere in football, I'm a rookie. I'm an apprentice. I'm going to have to learn and work my way up. So that's daunting in itself. But it's again, once I put my mind around the fact that it's a challenge, not an obstacle, I'm happy that I can push myself through that.
Do you still hold records at the judiciary?
I've never actually been. Never been to the judiciary once.
In terms of weeks set out?
Always took the early guilty plea. I think I have. I don't think I've got the most weeks spent out. I think I've got the most individual charges, which means all of my charges, a majority of my charges are careless grade 1s, which are irrelevant, really. It's a lazy arm that clips someone around the face. It's nothing intentional or reckless, which I should be proud of, shouldn't I?
Of course you should. You played an uncomplicated game in an uncomplicated manner. You played it the way you needed to be the best version of yourself. Pleasure following the journey. Mick Crocker, you, sir, are a legend. We hope you enjoyed the Michael Crocker story. He's different to what you thought. Throughout January, we're giving away 5 Andy Raymond Unfiltered Truckers hats every week. To win, simply leave a rating and review on your Apple Podcast app. Screenshot it, then email it to us at mailbox@andyraymondunfiltered.com.au. First 5 every week win. Make sure you come back soon, legends.